Lucifer want to take Moses' body? Why did the king of darkness leave his black throne and come just for one dead man? Was it really so important to fight over a corpse? And what happened on that mountain where no human being was present? The ground was silent, even the wind seemed to stop, but in that moment both heaven and hell stood still watching. This is a mystery that is hardly ever spoken about in any church. An event that is mentioned in just one small line. In the book of the Bible, Jude, this battle was not fought with swords. It was a battle of authority. A power that does not come from speaking or shouting, but from the command of God. Because when God's servant Moses left this world, his story did not end there. Lucifer, the ruler of darkness, came to take his body. But someone stood in his way. That was the moment. A quiet mountain, no human being. But in the spiritual world, a battle had already begun. On one side was Satan, and on the other side a heavenly angel sent by God. Why? Because Moses' body was not just bones and flesh. It was a sign of the faithfulness Moses had kept with God. And what happened made it clear how dangerous Moses was, even after death. This is the story of the battle that was fought over Moses' body, and today you are going to see it like never before. The winds of Mount Nebo were completely still. The rocks were cold. The sky felt heavy, as if a thick silence had settled everywhere. Below, the Jordan River shimmered like silver, winding through the valley. And beyond that river lay the promised land, like a dream Moses would never touch. He stood there alone, after 120 years of a long life, 40 years in Egypt, 40 years in the wilderness of Midian, and then 40 years leading a stubborn but miraculous people. God's servant Moses stood at the final threshold of history and exile. His feet were filled with sand, dry and cracked. His beard was long, tangled in the wind. His robe had grown old, its edges torn by time. Yet the Bible says his eyes had not grown weak, nor had his strength diminished. He was not dying from old age. He was being called home by an eternal voice. He was the man who saw God in the burning bush. The one who stood before Pharaoh and turned the Nile into blood. The one who struck the sea and saw the waters divide into two. The one who climbed Mount Sinai and met God, returning with fire in his eyes. He held in his hands the law given by God and spoke face to face with him among clouds, thunder, and smoke. But now, as a strong wind gently tugged at his robe on the peak of Pisgah, Moses stood completely calm, simply waiting. This was not an ordinary death. It was a farewell from this world, the moment of going under God's direct care. And in that final hour, God showed him everything. The land he had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. From Naphtali to Ephraim, from the western sea to the plains of Judah. A land flowing with milk and honey. A land of battles, kings, prophets, and stories written in blood. This is the land I promised to your forefathers, God said to Moses. I have allowed you to see it with your eyes, but you will not enter it. This was not a harsh punishment. It was God's judgment. Moses had struck the rock in anger and did not honor God before the people. So although he brought Israel to the doorstep of the promised land, he could not enter it with them. But God did not let Moses die like an ordinary man. There was no Levite there. No family to prepare his body. No anointing oil. No funeral rites. No religious ceremony. Because God himself buried him. The ground quietly opened. The earth held its breath, and a moment came that no human eye saw, when Moses' soul was lifted upward and his body was hidden. Deuteronomy 34:6 says, And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But to this day no one knows his burial place. Why? Why did God bury Moses in secret? This was the same Moses who brought God's law to humanity. The great prophet whose face shone with God's fire. So why was there no memorial place? No sign, no marker where people could go and remember him? Because God was not preserving an ordinary memory. He was guarding a holy secret. And someone wanted to expose that secret. Because when heaven covered that grave, hell fixed its eyes upon it. Lucifer, who was once the shining star of heaven and is now called the father of lies, had watched Moses his entire life. When he was a baby floating in a basket on the Nile. When he struck the rock in anger. And when he stood on the peak of Pisgah in his final moments. At every turn, Lucifer was watching. And he did not stop even after Moses' death, because even in death Moses remained a threat to the kingdom of darkness. Why? Because Moses did not depart merely as a man. He departed as a message. A message that even if a person fails, a relationship with God is still possible. A message that heaven's law reached hands formed from dust. A message that even after death, God does not abandon his chosen ones. Lucifer did not want this message to live. He did not want a dead body to become proof of God's covenant. He did not want Moses' shadow to reach into the future, to the prophecies that were still a mystery even to him. So he came, not in sorrow, not in fear, but filled with anger. And what was about to happen would ignite a battle between two worlds, a battle for the body of a man whom God had called, my friend. The valley was completely silent. There was a strange heaviness in the air, as if time itself had paused for a moment. The sun had not yet risen over the land of Moab, but a deeper darkness had already descended. Lucifer had arrived, not in chains and not carrying fire, but in a form filled with prideful brilliance now twisted by rebellion. He moved through that place like a shadow wrapped in fading light. His presence changed the direction of the wind. His steps made no sound. With each step, the air grew colder. Birds flew away in fear. The ground seemed to shrink beneath him. Lucifer did not know exactly where Moses was buried, yet somehow he knew the valley where God had hidden the body from human eyes. Now a being who once walked among fiery stones, who once stood before God's throne and then fell because of pride like lightning, had entered that place. His heart burned with one purpose, to seize Moses' body. Why? Because even in death Moses held great significance. This was not merely about bones and flesh. It was about reaching something that belonged only to God. It was about the sign that showed who Moses belonged to. It was about a spiritual power that could leave a lasting impact. If Lucifer could touch what God had buried with his own hands, he could defile it. He could corrupt what God had sanctified. He could turn Moses' body into mockery, place it before Israel, and draw people into worshiping the dead. He could spread false devotion that would destroy future generations. He could corrupt Moses' legacy, turn the law God gave into a weapon, and transform true worship into empty religion. This was not theft, it was a conspiracy. Lucifer stood there. The ground was silent, just as God had left it. Silence surrounded everything, but to him that silence felt like permission. He raised his hand, a hand filled with ancient darkness, and reached toward the grave. And then another presence appeared. There was no thunder, no fire, only authority. The Archangel Michael descended, covered in the light of God. His armor shone with heavenly fire. His face was bright like lightning and storm. He drew no sword. He did not shout. But when he stood between Lucifer and the grave, even the air trembled. Michael did not come to argue. He came to protect. Lucifer stepped forward. His voice was smooth, yet soaked in poison. This body is mine. He made a mistake. He struck the rock. He disobeyed. He belongs to death, and death belongs to me. Michael did not argue. He did not recount Moses' obedience. He did not beg for justice. He said only one sentence. The Lord rebuke you. That was all. No sword, no threat, no long religious speech. Just a divine verdict, a direct command from heaven's court, from the throne of the King of Kings. The Lord rebuke you. Lucifer stepped back, not because of Michael's strength, but because of the authority behind those words. In that moment Lucifer's claim ended. He had no right to that body, no legal ground, no spiritual permission. The promise in Moses' lineage, the covenant he carried, had been sealed by God himself. Lucifer disappeared in anger, and Michael turned back to guard what heaven had hidden. Because even after death Moses was still a weapon of God. This was not a strange or mysterious spiritual event. It was a deliberate spiritual war. Lucifer did not come for every dead prophet. He did not claim Joseph's body. When Elijah was taken up in fire, he did not try to seize him. He did not go to David's grave, nor disturb Isaiah's dust. But for Moses, Lucifer came personally. Why? Because Moses's body was not just a corpse. It was a key connected to things Lucifer still did not fully understand. Despite all his cunning and pride, there were truths he feared, and all those truths were present in Moses's life. First, Moses was the vessel through whom God made his covenant with humanity. He was not just a prophet. He was the receiver of God's law. He held the stone tablets written by God's own hand. He wrote the Torah, the foundation of Jewish law and the first 5 books of the Bible. The law that taught what sin is, that pointed toward holiness, and ultimately led to Christ. Lucifer knew that if he could corrupt Moses's legacy, he could twist the law into a weapon to oppress rather than lead people to God. He could build a religion of rituals without revealed truth, devotion without relationship. If he could access Moses's body, he could turn remembrance into a poisonous weapon, turning Israel's reverence into idolatry and drawing their focus away from the God Moses trusted. Second, Moses's body had been touched by God's glory, and Lucifer feared it. Moses stood on Mount Sinai and glimpsed God's glory. His face shone so brightly that the Israelites asked him to cover it. His body had been soaked in God's presence. Even if that radiance later faded, what if some trace remained? Lucifer is not only a deceiver, he seeks power. He wanted to defile what once reflected God's glory, drag it into darkness and shame, as he tried with Eve, Cain, and Judas. But Moses was different. He sinned, but he did not fall away. He failed, but he did not surrender. Lucifer wanted to corrupt that complicated truth, the sign that redemption is possible after sin. Because if someone like Moses sinned and yet God buried him with his own hands, what hope would humanity cling to? Third, Moses was destined to appear again. Lucifer understood prophecy, not fully, but enough to recognize signs. He knew Moses would not remain in the dust forever. Centuries later, Moses would stand with Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration and speak with Jesus about his coming death. Moses' story was not finished. If Lucifer could defile the body before that moment, perhaps he could interfere with prophecy, disrupt God's appointed times. He did not want bones. He wanted the future. Only one angel was sent to guard Moses' grave, Michael. Not merely a messenger, but heaven's warrior. The Bible shows Michael in spiritual warfare in Daniel 10. Intervening when dark powers delayed an answer to Daniel's prayer. He is not passive. He steps in when heaven is challenged. Moses' death marked the end of an era. The lawgiver was departing, and a new generation would enter the promised land. Michael was sent so no evil could touch that transition. Michael does not speak on his own authority. When Lucifer accused, Michael did not argue. He said, "The Lord rebuke you." Because he knows he is not God, he obeys God's command. That is why he is powerful. He acts not from emotion but from divine order. He cannot be bribed, frightened, or manipulated. When he speaks, it is because God has already spoken. This event is recorded clearly in Jude 1:9. Why mention it? Because Moses' body was not forgotten, it was preserved. Later, on a high mountain, Jesus would appear in glory, and with him were Moses and Elijah. Moses was not a ghost. He was present, and that moment had been guarded long before by Michael. Michael was not only protecting a body, he was guarding the future plan. This conflict was not just about Moses. It reflects a deeper truth. The enemy seeks not only your soul but your name, your influence, your legacy. Lucifer came after Moses when he was gone. Often a believer's greatest impact comes after death. What do we learn? Your body, your life, your memory belong to God. Moses made mistakes. He killed a man in Egypt. He struck the rock wrongly. He doubted. Yet God buried him and sent Michael to guard him. Because he belonged to him. Your body is not just dust. It is a temple, a testimony. What belongs to God cannot be claimed by another. Second, Satan still tries to claim what God has already redeemed. He whispers that you are unforgiven, reminds you of your past. But when he accuses, the answer remains the same: the Lord rebuke you. Those words silence the enemy. Third, heaven fights for you in places you cannot see. Moses never saw this battle, yet heaven fought for him. When you are silent, God speaks. When you are weak, he sends help. If he guarded Moses' grave, he will guard your calling. On that silent mountain, it was about authority, who truly has the right. Moses failed, but he did not abandon God. After death, God did not abandon him. All accusations collapsed before one sentence: the Lord rebuke you. That is the power of grace. That is the depth of covenant. If hell knocks at your door, heaven already holds the key. So when you feel forgotten, remember Moses. When the enemy says you have fallen too far, remember that God buried Moses with his own hands and later brought him back in glory. If God can guard a grave, he can guard you. This is not just a mystery. It is a promise. If this video touched your heart, like it, share it, and do not forget to subscribe. Because the battle between light and darkness is not just in the past. It continues today, and you are part of it. Stay alert, stand firm in your faith, and belong completely to God.